Hello, I'm Kerry Shamblin, and I practice jyotisha, also known as Vedic Astrology. I have been offering a monthly forecast since 1999 where I track how the planets are moving through the sky and how they may be affecting our life on Earth. I also work directly with others through counseling, teaching, and mentoring. Hello, this is Kerry with the May 2026 Vedic Astrology forecast. And excuse my voice, I feel great, I do. It's just my voice has gone on vacation for the last week, so if you've got any remedies, let me know. All right, let's start with a summary of the 9 planets. Each of the 9 planets gives us our summary. All right, this is the Sun. The Sun begins May in Aries, where it is exalted, emphasizing individual drive, initiative, and decisive action. On May 14th, it moves into Taurus, shifting focus towards stability, resource management, and grounded growth. With support from Mercury and Venus early in the month and Saturn's aspect throughout, the Sun balances personal ambition with responsibility to the collective. The Moon. May begins with a full moon in Libra on May 1st, highlighting tension between independence and relationship, requiring strategic balance. The new moon in Taurus on May 16th shifts energy toward grounding, practical beginnings, and resource alignment. Throughout the month, the moon traverses in and out of Kala Amrita Yoga, amplifying themes of fate, timing, and emotional processing. Mars. Mars spends the first part of May finishing its transit through Pisces, which its energy has been diffused and less directed. On May 10th, Mars enters Aries, its own sign, regaining strength and clarity of purpose. This shift brings a surge of initiative, courage, and forward movement, encouraging decisive action and the pursuit of new ventures. Mercury. Mercury moves quickly through Aries in early May, entering combustion with the Sun and accelerating mental activity and decision-making. On May 14th, it enters Taurus, forming an exchange with Venus that supports communication, planning, and financial or relational organization. By May 29th, Mercury enters Gemini, its own sign, increasing momentum, learning, and network opportunities. Jupiter. Jupiter completes its final full month in Gemini, concluding a cycle marked by instability, rapid change, and disrupted growth due to Mercury's influence and Rahu's aspect. This period calls for reflection, integration, and learning from the past year. As Jupiter prepares to enter Cancer on June 1st, the focus shifts toward renewed growth, nourishment, and long-term stability. Venus. Venus begins May in Taurus, its own sign, supporting comfort, connection, and material stability. On May 14th, Venus moves into Gemini, joining Jupiter and forming an exchange with Mercury, enhancing communication, creativity, and relationship dynamics. This transit supports business, networking, and social engagement, helping to restore flow after prior periods of stagnation. Saturn. Saturn continues its steady transit through Pisces and moves into Revati nakshatra on May 17th, marking a significant phase of closure, integration, and karmic completion. This shift invites reflection on long-term cycles, including themes stretching back decades. Saturn's influence emphasizes patience, responsibility, and the need to finalize unfinished business before moving forward. Rahu, the North Node. Rahu remains powerful in Aquarius, specifically in Shatabishak Nakshatra, continuing to drive disruption, innovation, and exposure of hidden dynamics. Its influence amplifies desire, urgency, and unconventional approaches, often creating instability alongside breakthroughs. Rahu's ongoing strength keeps pressure on systems and individuals to evolve, adapt, and confront underlying imbalances. Ketu, the South Node. Ketu transits Magha Nakshatra in Leo, drawing attention to lineage, ancestry, and deeply rooted karmic patterns. Its influence brings themes of detachment, introspection, and confronting inherited structures or beliefs. While Ketu can create obstruction, it also offers opportunities for liberation by releasing outdated attachments and reconnecting with deeper sources of meaning and identity. For an in-depth analysis of specific planetary placements, please continue listening to the full planetary forecast. The final month of Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter is one of the visible outer planets, who moves at a slower pace through the zodiac. Jupiter's cycle through the signs lasts about 12 years, as he traverses roughly one sign per year. That said, we aren't always getting a clean transit of one sign per year, due to the fact that each year, Jupiter spends 4 months in retrograde motion, often sending him back into a previous sign and chopping up his transit of any given sign into 2 or 3 sections. Jupiter's current Gemini transit began on May 14th, 2025, and was broken into 2 sections. From May 14th through October 18th, 2025, Jupiter moved all the way across Gemini and then advanced slightly into Cancer on October 18th, took retrograde motion on November 11th, and then slid back to Gemini on December 5th, 2025. Side note, just as retrograde Jupiter returned to Gemini, Rahu moved into Shatabishak Nakshatra during the first week of December 2025, setting up a very strong aspect exchange between Jupiter and Rahu since then. This second section of Jupiter in Gemini began December 5th, 2025, saw Jupiter resume direct motion on March 10th, 2026, and then move into Cancer on June 1st, 2026. The first pass was 5 months, the second section lasted about 7 months. Jupiter in Gemini could be expected to be choppy. Mercury's air sign does run interference with the growth-oriented Jupiter energy, bringing rapid change in thought and plans that make steady growth difficult. With Rahu's aspect to Jupiter strongly raging nearly the entire Gemini transit, we saw chaos, revelation, and disruption that made it difficult to plant seeds that actually sprouted. Additionally, Saturn transiting Jupiter's Pisces contributed to a slow sense of impossible growth due to foundational issues that were rooted in past mistakes. Jupiter in Cancer feels different. First, Jupiter is in exalted status in Cancer, indicating that we may be in for a change in the ability to get those seeds to take when we nourish them in good soil and ample water. Jupiter in Gemini is dry. Jupiter in Cancer is moist. Extend that analogy and we may predict more fertility with Jupiter in Cancer. Second, in the bigger picture, since 2020, Saturn, who carries the qualities of dry, cold, slow, and old, has been dominating Jupiter due to sign position and aspect since the Great Conjunction of December 20th, 2020, when Saturn and Jupiter joined in Capricorn. This has been the case. Jupiter entering Cancer is a good chance to break up this weather pattern, bringing moisture, warmth, and positive, sustainable growth. Similar to Jupiter's Gemini transit, the first 5 months will see Jupiter gliding like a swan across the entire sign of Cancer from June 1st through October 31st, 2026. Jupiter will occupy Cancer and aspect other water signs, Scorpio and Pisces as well, in addition to the direct opposition aspect into Capricorn. These signs will all benefit from Jupiter's presence and aspect. Make a plan for growth and education during this range of time, June 1st through October 31st. Jupiter's second part of the Cancer transit, similar to the Gemini one, holds a bit more complexity. Here is the schedule. October 31st, 2026, Jupiter enters Leo, encountering Ketu, who conjoins with Jupiter and then moves into Cancer on November 27th, remembering that Rahu and Ketu move backward through the zodiac. On December 13th, 2026, Jupiter goes retrograde at 3 degrees Leo. January 24th, 2027, retrograde Jupiter returns to Cancer. February 22nd, 2027, retrograde Jupiter conjoins Ketu in Cancer. April 12th, 2027, Jupiter resumes direct motion at 23 degrees Cancer. And then June 25th, 2027, Jupiter returns back into Leo. The Jupiter in Cancer transit has 3 parts. The first part has already happened. From October 18th, 2025 through December 5th, 2025, that was the preview part of Jupiter in Cancer. It was short. From June 1st through October 31st, 2026, it's Jupiter going right through Cancer. We're going to call that the glorious swan phase. And then the third phase will be January 24th, 2027 through June 25th, 2027, the longest section. We're going to call that growing pains, and it's worth it. As we move forward toward this shift of Jupiter in Gemini to Jupiter in Cancer, which is May, back to the present moment, it is time to do our final analysis of the past year. Learn from our mistakes, to learn from others' mistakes, and learn how to navigate staying on our path when the winds of the world try to blow us off track. Regain balance, release negativity that doesn't belong in your suitcase, and pack it up for the next chapter where we may all have access to resources and positivity that have been difficult to find during the past 5 years. Full moon in Libra, Swati Nakshatra, May 1st. The first astrological event of the calendar month of May comes with a full moon in Libra, Swati Nakshatra, on Friday, May 1st. The moon at 18 degrees Libra opposes the sun at 18 degrees Aries, bringing the energy of Venus and Mars as lords of those signs into play at this time, setting the stage for a passionate dance between opposing forces that crave connection, and interaction. Full moons can feel like a culmination or completion, as the waxing moon has built up energy starting with the previous new moon moment, which, as a reminder, showed the Sun, Moon, and Venus together in Aries on April 17th, indicating an energetic coalescing of the same four planets due to Mars's rulership of Aries. The signs of Aries and Libra, ruled by Mars and Venus respectively, hold space for the very human dynamics of individual expression finding balance with relationship with others. Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, is the exaltation sign for the sun, emphasizing the very human need for individual expression, independent action, and the courage to move through the world alone. Libra, the seventh sign of the zodiac, is an air sign ruled by Venus and the exaltation sign for Saturn. In Libra, we negotiate individual versus collective expression, making personal concessions for the upliftment of relationship or group dynamics. The sun and moon are referred to as the luminaries, the astrological bodies that hold and reflect the most light that we see in our day and night sky. Each month, we see the transit of the moon through every sign of the zodiac, catching and reflecting the steady light of the sun, showing us the play between the divine masculine energy of the sun and the divine feminine energy of the moon. When the sun attains his position in Aries, giving him immense power, which is reflected in the northern hemisphere's initiation of spring season, bringing new life and growth, the full moon at that time will shine from Libra, symbolized by the scales, and supporting Saturn, reminding us of the balance between life and death, hope and practicality, and individual versus collective. In each of our lives and birth charts, this Aries-Libra axis exists and is expressed. April and May of each year offer a slot for this full moon in Libra, asking us to rebalance our priorities when it comes to self-support and group concession. This year on May 1, we may feel this even more intensely due to the multiple aspects coming into Libra at this time. This translates to a complex situation where diplomacy needs to be strategic and reactions to outside forces need to be measured. We talk about aspects from other planets, and when we do, it should be considered how close by degree those aspects are. Close aspects are more impactful and noticeable. We can consider an orb of influence when tracking these things, meaning a range by degree of what we consider close, with 30 degrees in each sign. A 10-degree orb can be considered impactful, and narrowing it down, a 5-degree orb could be significant, and with an exact aspect by degree bringing almost certain impact. The full and new moon moments have impact, since the sun and moon share the same degree, whether in the same or opposite signs. While none of the other planets that aspect this full moon are exact this month, there is some impact. In order of tight to loose, we will have Sun, Rahu, Mars, Jupiter, and Mercury pushing on the moon in Libra on May 1st. This could feel in real time like so much stimulation or so many moving parts that it is difficult to feel resolved and clear when it comes to making decisions. Swati Nakshatra, which spans from 6 degrees 40 minutes to 20 degrees Libra, will hold the moon, further emphasizing the sense of the world's strong movements affecting our vulnerability as we attempt to make a stand and stay grounded. The sun as light giver in this moment from Aries reminds us that any kind of concessions will cost us our individual advantage, which in some cases is the cost of doing business. Rahu from Shatabishak in Aquarius continues to blow strongly toward the moon, toward cleaving to our deep desires while also navigating choppy waters. Mars sends courage, but from an underwater position that requires increased focus in order to muster strength. Jupiter from Gemini reminds us that steadiness is not always available and that finding balance requires wobbling in just the right way. Mercury comments that any difficulty is a learning opportunity, another chance to gather data for the future. With all of this combined, we may find ourselves at a pivot point during this full moon May Day that could go either way. This occurs with the moon as the sole planetary energy on the side of the nodal axis that stretches from Ketu in Leo to Rahu in Aquarius. While we may have some perspective and agility to pivot, the overwhelming effects of recent events make it difficult to have confidence that we are conceding the right things or wobbling toward a stable stance. Take time to weigh all of the input as you move toward decisions. Mars transits Aries from May 10th through June 20th. After the full moon, it wanes through the lonely and unoccupied signs of the zodiac, forcing us into retreat that may feel isolating but also calm as it moves through the signs that are empty of other planets but receiving aspects, just not at the full volume of the full moon. Meanwhile, Mars motors through the final degrees of Pisces, dry land in sight, with plans to reach shore and hit the ground running when he reaches his own sign of Aries as May 10th becomes May 11th. Mercury, moving quickly toward the sun, gives us a feeling of momentum, which is compounded with Mars entering into Ashwini Nakshatra and the waning moon moving past Rahu. This juncture of the month could come up quickly and significantly as a change point when we may be running the gauntlet with the thought that making it through doesn't necessarily ensure our stability. Mars joining the Sun and Mercury in Aries could feel like a consolidation of power that is looking for a channel of expression. Mars's exit from Pisces relieves the pressure of Saturn at his back, but the echo of demands for accountability continue to reverberate. Mars marches through Aries until June 10th, on his own from May 14th, when the Sun and Mercury move into Taurus. The energy of Mars is focused in Aries during this entire time. There are aspects to Cancer, Libra, and Scorpio, which could affect individuals with significant placements in these signs. But in the current astrological weather, those signs are void of other planets, bringing more of a fiery focus to Aries, urging us to get started on projects and to gather resources for future protection and deployment. Kala Amrita Yoga from May 12th through the 22nd. The second pulse of Kala Amrita Yoga begins when the waning moon departs Aquarius and enters Pisces on May 12th. As the moon traverses the signs between Rahu and Ketu, we will feel the full effect of this combination, which translates as the scales tipping toward fate and away from free will. This is where we navigate the world happening to us while drawing on all of our tools and practices to keep ourselves on track. Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, and Cancer are the signs between Rahu and Ketu, where we see the consolidation of all the visible planets during these pulses when the moon moves through them. Saturn remains in Pisces through February of 2028, while the quicker moving planets move through this zone during the spring and summer months of 2026. This pattern begins to break up in early July when Venus enters Leo, joining Ketu. We will have one more full pulse from June 8th through the 18th. Venus transits Gemini, May 14th through June 8th. Venus flows from Taurus to Gemini early on May 14th, leaving behind her own sign and joining Jupiter. With a relatively rapid pace, Venus sweeps through Mercury's air sign, sharing space with Jupiter there, but not catching up with Jupiter until mid-June in Cancer. For the first couple weeks of this Venus and Gemini transit, Venus gets both the shared space with Jupiter and an exchange of signs with Mercury, due to Mercury's transit through Taurus from May 14th through 29th. The latter half of May, due to this configuration, looks great for attending to business of almost any kind. Literal business, making plans and adjustments for educational trajectories, financial reorganization, investments, purchases, networking, spiritual practices, and even legal actions. Venus and Mercury in exchange could help things move and flow a little faster in contrast with what has been sluggish, stuck, or obstructed. Mercury will break the exchange with Venus by moving into Gemini on May 29th, giving us the trio of student-teacher planets for a few days before Jupiter moves out of Gemini and into Cancer on June 1st. The last few days of May could look like an ending that quickly transitions into a next chapter, like a graduation from school or program that flows quickly into starting a job, a journey, or similar transition. Mercury transits Taurus from May 14th through the 29th. During the first half of May, Mercury, freshly arrived in Aries, moves quickly, running toward the sun and entering into a combustion status by May 2nd. A few days after Mars moves into Aries on May 10th, joining the sun and Mercury, they both exit to Taurus on May 14th, while on the same day, Venus exits Taurus to join Jupiter in Gemini. Mid-May, with these three shifts, could also feel like a significant pivot in the month. In general, Mercury moves quickly through the signs, but also tends to vary in speed as he advances and frequently retrogrades through the zodiac. Mercury has the heat on his winged feet this month, moving quickly through both Aries and Taurus. When he enters Gemini on May 29th, joining Venus and Jupiter, he begins to slow his roll, preparing for the next retrograde cycle from June 29th to July 23rd. Mercury enters Taurus in exact conjunction with the Sun, a state we know as combustion when a planet becomes invisible due to proximity with the Sun's bright orb. We can think of Mercury's energy being lost or consumed by the Sun, but another way of looking at it is fusion, with the energy of Mercury being blended into and then emitted by the powerful day star. Mercury and Venus, both changing signs on May 14th, puts them into parivartana, exchange of signs, for the entirety of Mercury's quick transit through Taurus. This is a positive feature of May's latter half, giving us movement, creativity, connection, and learning opportunities. Mercury flies out of the Sun's range, escaping combustion by May 25th. We can use this combust Mercury in Taurus with the added cushion of Venus's exchange during the last 2 weeks of May to reconnect, stabilize, organize, and find new avenues for connection and creation. Network, accept invitations, and look forward to new horizons as the fertile month of May finishes out. The Sun transits Taurus May 14th through June 14th. The Sun reliably follows Mercury into Taurus on May 14th for his annual visit to Venus's Earth sign until June 14th, when he walks into Gemini. The first half of the Sun's Taurus transit this year is marked by the Mercury and Venus exchange, that energy helping to enliven and create stable growth. By month's end, the Sun remains alone in Taurus for the remainder of his transit there. The Sun in Taurus is creative, stable energy. Either with or without Mercury's cheerful encouragement, the enthusiastic support of Mercury and Venus will still echo into Taurus, offering us the positive regard of connection and transaction. This energy will be welcome because on the other side of things, we are still feeling the aspect of Saturn on Taurus, reminding us to take those steps, but to remain cautious, drawing on past experience as a teacher. The Sun, as champion of individuality and solo achievement, can sometimes cause us to forget the effects our personal agendas can have on the environment and those surrounding us. The aspect of Saturn and the support of Venus and Mercury will remind us constantly this year as the Sun moves through Taurus. While we are each responsible for our individual contributions, we are reminded at this time to make space for collective well-being. If feeling isolated or alone, overcome by reaching out to check up on someone else, rather than sinking into the depths of waiting for contact. The illusion of separation can be easily dispelled by a small act of contact. New moon in Taurus, May 16th. Just after the Sun reaches Taurus, the waning moon joins him at 2 degrees for the new moon in Kritika Nakshatra. With the lunar energy at low tide, our mental and physical energy can also feel low. It may be difficult this month to carve out space for rest and withdrawal due to the very active influences around the new moon. Taurus is a stable earth-based sign, but Kritika Nakshatra carries some fire as it stretches from Aries into Taurus. Actions that require decisive courage are well supported in Kritika, so prepare a gentle environment around the idea of doing difficult things. The energy of this new moon could be artificially expanded by Mercury's close presence, which also pulls the energy of Venus and Jupiter from Gemini into the mix. With the shifts of Mars on May 10th, then Venus, Mercury, and Sun on May 14th, followed quickly by the new moon on the 16th, we could feel the latter half of May manifesting much more actively and quickly than the first part. With that in mind, as the moon is waning and locked into Kala Amrita Yoga, passing by Rahu, Saturn, and Mars, try to finish up, organize, declutter, and release during early May. Clear out what won't be coming along on the new ventures or projects so that the path is open ahead for creative and connective energy that will pull you forward, ready or not. Saturn transits Revati, May 17th through October 8th. On May 17th, slow-moving Saturn heaves one step forward into the final nakshatra, Revati, which sits in the last portion of the natural zodiac at the fishtail end of Pisces. Saturn in Revati moves us collectively toward finishing the business that started at the beginning of this current Saturn journey through the 12 signs, when Saturn entered Aries on April 17th, 1998. Saturn will advance into Revati and then take retrograde motion on July 26th. returning to Uttarabhadra on October 8th, then sinking deeper into the ocean floor until December 10th, when Saturn resumes direct motion at 14 degrees Pisces. After that 4.5-month retrograde cycle, Saturn again moves through Uttarabhadra, returning again to Revati on February 8th, 2027. We will see this Saturn step into Revati as a preview that calls us to find our way toward appropriate endings and finishing business. The events of the past 30 years can be reviewed, processed, integrated, and translated into a distilled gain of knowledge from a long-term lesson plan. Through the summer months, Saturn's advance notice of the need for surrendering into the cycle of time may bring up traces of past events that need to be processed, integrated, and released. Mercury transits Gemini May 29th through June 22nd. Mercury keeps the momentum going as he moves from Taurus to his own sign of Gemini on May 29th, joining Venus and Jupiter. With Taurus receiving the pressurized aspect of Saturn, reminding us to keep time and not rush, we may feel things move faster once Mercury reaches Gemini, acting as the flux needed for transformations to initiate. Jupiter is set to move out of Gemini and into Cancer on June 1st, setting the stage for a 5-month glide that could be supportive of positive growth, changes at the root level of society, and a turnabout in fair play. This exit will leave both Mercury and Venus alone in Gemini to pick up the threads and quickly weave plans to set up and maintain a new approach to business as usual. As May becomes June, the moon will be free of the nodal axis bind. Mercury and Venus will be running strong in Gemini with Rahu's amplified push from Aquarius, and we may all be in a position to regroup and see the road ahead a bit more clearly than has been available for the past 5 years. We will revisit Mercury's role in this as we open the June forecast next month. Rahu and Ketu stir the pot. May and June will see the nodal axis in an active role with 2 prongs. First, both nodes have reached very potent nakshatras with which they are associated. Rahu has been strong in Shatabishak nakshatra since early December 2025 and will back out into Dhanishta by early July. Rahu remains strong in Aquarius through late November 2026, but this slide into another nakshatra could turn the volume down from a 10 to an 8. Ketu reached Magha nakshatra in late March and retrogrades through that first slice of Leo through late November, when both nodes will slip into their next station. That gives us a 3-month stretch, roughly April through June, with both nodes placed in powerful nakshatras for them. Rahu is already off the charts, being in his own sign of Aquarius, but with the added boost of Shatabishak nakshatra, which claims Rahu as the planetary ruler, we have been feeling the toss and turn of this powerful transit since early December 2025. Which has forced us to get to the root of what is corrupt and causing continued imbalances in personal health, family systems, and worldwide cultures. Ketu in Magha slightly differs, as Ketu is not associated with ruling Leo, but Magha has Ketu as a planetary ruler, drawing us deeply into lineage, ancestors, and events that could have happened generations ago that are still creating impact. The Ketu-derived issues of today could be rooted in past events whose details are lost, but the powerful vision and innovation of Rahu, sitting opposite in Shatabishak, are giving us a magical lens that allows us to find remedies and solutions in the same ether that surrounds us at all times. Second, the nodal axis is in a position to cause that bi-weekly bind when the moon joins all of the planets between Pisces and Cancer for those pulses of Kala Amrita Yoga. The invitation here is to feel deeply into the spiritual basis for all the chaos that occurs in the world, including specific incidents we can name now, and on a wide-based philosophical level regarding all of the teeming life on Earth. We don't always get to know why specific things happen, but moving beyond that need to know why can liberate us into a broader range of understanding that helps us to make clear decisions in the present. June 2026 headlines. Jupiter enters Cancer June 1st. Venus transits Cancer June 8th through July 4th. New moon in Taurus, Mrigashira, June 14th. Sun transits Gemini June 14th through July 16th. Mars transits Taurus June 20th through August 2nd. Mercury transits Cancer June 22nd through July 7th. And that is because of a return to Gemini due to Mercury retrograde from June 29th through July 23rd. Full moon in Sagittarius, Purvashada, on June 29th. Thank you for sticking with this long May 2026 forecast. I appreciate you hearing me. If you want to make contact, find my website, planetaryinfluence.com. Take care until next month. Thank you for listening to this presentation. If you are interested in following my work, look for Kerry Shamblin Astrology on YouTube, Spotify, Patreon, Facebook, and Instagram. My monthly forecast is published in written and audio format on my website, planetaryinfluence.com, where you can join my email list or book a one-on-one session with me. My goal is to light your path toward a joyful and liberated life experience.